This is reddogterrain. Welcome back to the shed. Today we're building a vertical collaboration challenge. A few months ago, I reached out to Cleric's Creations about doing a collaborative challenge together. He was all for it, and he ran with the idea. He wrangled up several other YouTubers and crafters, including Dungeons and Chronics, Jack's Minis, Dirty Basement Terrain, Carl Makes Stuff. We set up a few rules and a timeline, and here we are. The challenge was to build a vertical terrain piece, something with multiple levels and over 12 inches high. We have crafters with different styles, so we wanted the rules to be fairly generic. My last few builds had been medieval or fantasy type stuff. Before we set up the challenge, I decided my next build would be sci-fi or Warhammer. When we went with the vertical challenge, I was kind of stumped. I spent a few days thinking about what to do and making a few sketches, but didn't really come up with anything great. So, eventually, I just went in the shed and started cutting foam. I fit a few angular pieces together, and then, eventually, something started to come out of it. I did have the idea to have this window, something a few minis could stand on and snipe through, but something difficult for an enemy to get to. I used my homemade circle jig, and it worked okay. Eventually I rewired my proxon, and that fixed a lot of my issues. First I glued in a platform, and then I added these chunky pieces because they look kind of cool and unusual, but mostly I needed a nice support for the build. Some granny grating makes excellent screen or cage type openings. I had a bit of a struggle trying to fit it in without it bending or it being too small, but a half circle of dollar store foam board fixed any gap issues I had. More chunky columns. I bought a box of toothpicks to help hold the foam together. I bought flat ones. I thought they would work just as well, if not better than the round ones. I was wrong. If you learned anything from this video, I hope it's that round toothpicks are better than flat. I kept the flat ones though. They'll work great as planks, or some such thing, but not for holding foam together. This octagonal piece would make up the top level. For a while I was considered making a landing pad, but eventually realized how big it would have to be. That would require a lot more support and would change the look of the whole thing. I waited to glue the two sections together just because it meant I could more easily work on different parts while the glue dried. These pieces of white foam would make up the third of 4 levels. I cut them to mimic the octagon on the top. I'm not really sure why I decided to add these pill bottles at this point, but I did, so there we go. Something I learned from my tower build: if you're trying to glue a piece on that is thin, the best thing to do is hot glue foam on the inside. This creates a much larger surface area for the two pieces to adhere to each other. At this point, the majority of the build is done, and I went ahead and glued everything together. I painted the whole thing in the secret sauce, just Mod Podge and black paint. I even did a second coat. When I was building this, I kept imagining the foam to be concrete. I found this textured spray paint. Learning from my past mistakes, I kept the can decently far away, but I think they added extra repellent to be able to make the texture come out. Because you see right here, it quickly starts to eat the foam. I was frustrated at making the same mistake twice, but I decided to roll with the punches and sprayed the whole thing and let it eat as much as it wanted to. I showed my partner what had happened, and she loved it. She said it looked like it had been hit by mortar shells and gunfire. To me, it looked like garbage, but I kept going. As I painted and dry brushed and washed, it did start to look a lot better. The first wash was a simple, watered-down acrylic paint wash, a cheap base coat. Later, I would use an oil wash to pick out certain areas I wanted more shadows and grime in. I dry brushed with light buttermilk. I think I should have done an intermediate dry brush, maybe a light gray. The buttermilk was a little too drastic. However, it did make the destruction really pop. Here you can see the difference between dry brush and no dry brush. Relay Tower N7 is a vital part of the communication network. It had once been part of a series of towers and buildings, but airstrikes and raids had decimated the area. Only this lone vertical tower remains. The essential workings of Relay Tower N7 had been repaired numerous times, though with less effect and efficiency every time. Barely standing and functioning, Relay Tower N7 must be protected. It must be rebuilt. Your battalion of trained soldiers must escort a team of mechanics and engineers to Relay Tower N7. Without them, communications with our coastal forces will be lost. They must reach and repair Relay Tower N7. You must get them there, at all cost. Your lives mean nothing. Their lives mean nothing. Only Relay Tower N7 is important. I pulled several bits out of my bits box. The trick to trash bashing like this is to combine pieces so that it doesn't look like the original piece, or cut them in such a way that they look different. For the most part, I followed my own advice. A few of these are basically unchanged, though. I primed them all in black and then gave them a weathered paint job. As I add bits of junk to this build, I would ask you to like and subscribe. Actually, the best thing you can do is comment on what you would like to see me try to build in 2024. I have a few ideas, but probably not enough for the whole year. Also, please check out the other crafters in this vertical challenge. Links to their YouTubes and social medias will be in the comments. This was a lot of fun, and I hope to do more. If you came here from another crafter's channel, welcome. Thanks for being here. Here's the final piece. I hope you enjoyed. It was a lot of fun to build.